Hi all, here we are. We have reached a point where we created a VPC host project, we created a service project. We have shared a subnet from the host project to the service project and created a compute engine instance and tried to SSH into it. We were not able to SSH into this compute engine VM. And we are going to create another VM with an external IP and try to see if we can SSH into it or not. So here we have an instance with a private internal IP address and also an instance with an internal IP address and also an external IP address, and we try to SSH into it. We try to get the command and try to use the gcloud utility for this purpose. That way we learn the gcloud utility also, and we see the command. Before executing the command, we have to authenticate it with the gcloud auth login. This opens up a browser and we authenticate it as a ops user and allow it, so it gets authenticated and we are authenticated to the service project as ops user. So now if you do gcloud compute instances list, we see the instances with this ones. So we are successfully authenticated to the right project. So now let's execute this command and see if we can SSH into it. This should not work. So eventually it would fail. It's not working. So I do a Control C, come back and understand why we are not able to authenticate to it. So this one, we are trying to SSH from our machine, our laptop, to the compute engine which has an external IP. So when we try to do it, our VM instance is shielded with a firewall. This firewall should have a allowed list. Our machine's IP should be added to the allowed list of this firewall for us to authenticate and SSH into the compute engine. So let's see what's our IP. Here we can see our IP, and let's try to add this to the firewall. So inside the VPC host project has the network user. We go to the firewall and see the firewall that we have to SSH. So this firewall has the IP side ranges of our VPC. So if we are trying to authenticate or get into the SSH into the instance with our VPC network, it works, but with the other network it doesn't work. So we shall add our IP to this, our machine's IP to this, and click save. It takes some time to update. Now it's successfully updated. The firewall rule is successfully updated with our machine's IP whitelisted. So now if you try the same command again, we are able to successfully get into the instance which has a public IP from our instance with this IP, as the firewall is whitelisted. So now let's try to do the same for the instance with the private IP. So if you just go view the command, this command is a bit different. So if I just do an exit and see the previous command, this is the previous command through which we were successfully able to SSH into the instance with the public IP. But now when we try to fetch the command, it is something different, which is called as tunnel through IAP. IAP stands for Identity Aware Proxy. We shall discuss about what the Identity Aware Proxy is, but let's try to see if we are able to execute this command or not. So it tries to SSH into it, but eventually it will fail. So let's try to do it from the console itself, from the Google Cloud console, SSH into it. So it tries to transfer the keys, asks us to authorize. So it authorizes and tries to establish the connection, but eventually it would fail. So after a while, it fails, saying that please ensure that the VM firewall allows these side ranges on port 22. So what's happening here? So let's try to understand this. So when we were trying to access our SSH into the VM instance which has an external IP, and we added our machine's IP, when we added our machine's IP to the firewall list, allowed list, we were able to do the SSH. But now it's when we don't have the external IP for our instance, when it only has an internal IP, it doesn't work that way. So what happens is, when we try to do it from the browser or through the terminal, it is trying to do the SSH from the Identity Aware Proxy, the IAP tunnel. So this is the proxy agent which has these IP side ranges. So our browser first tries to go to a proxy on these IP side ranges and then tries to do the SSH on port 22. So these are the IP ranges of this proxy. So we can take an analogy. We can understand it with an analogy. So if our house was having a door, a public door, anyone can enter into it. Yes, we have a firewall, but people can enter into it. But if we don't have a public door, we only have port 22 and only our house can be accessed, our home can be accessed with the known people. So the actor, the external user, should come through a proxy who our VM is aware of. So it comes through the proxy, it authenticates to it, and our firewall, which knows these rules, can allow the actor, the external user, into our home. So the same way, while we are trying to SSH from the browser, it uses the proxy server, and the proxy sits on the IP side ranges of this. So we have to allow these side ranges also. So let's go to the firewall, edit the firewall, and try to add these side ranges to the allowed list. It takes some time to save. Once it's successfully saved, let's try to do SSH again to this instance. It asks us to authorize, and it is saying that it was transferring the keys and we were able to successfully get into the instance. What is this transferring the keys means? So we allowed the firewall, we were able to get into the instance, and that transferring the keys. So let's see let's see the transferring the keys again. So it says it's transferring the keys. So let's see what that transferring the keys means. So if we see OS login SSH keys, it creates a key for us and then transfers the key to the VM instance. It creates the keys. This one creates the keys, transfers the keys to the VM instance, and also we have our network layer whitelisted with this side ranges. So that's how we are able to SSH into the VM instance, which doesn't have a public IP, external IP. If it has an external IP, we don't have to add these side ranges to the firewall rules. So that's how we are able to SSH into the instance which has a public IP and which doesn't have a public IP. Thank you all.